It helps if I turn the volume back up.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they mentioned dwarves there, and the whole time I'm wondering, I'm looking for the dwarves to see if there are any. And
They're
I think, oh, there's
underground.
no dwarves.
They're all underground.
Right. I
But,
feel like I don't know what they were doing with that. Like they could have just not said that, and we wouldn't have wondered about it. But saying
now
making
now
it
you're
particular,
looking forward to it in the sequel.
well,
I'm gonna
just
load another
making it
pipe, but I'm back.
particular, and then having centaurs
Welcome
and
back.
lizard
Thank
people
you.
and dragons, but not one dwarf.
Yeah, we'll get
Maybe
we'll
there
get to
could
the
have
world
been a dwarf
building.
in the background, but we never saw it specifically. We don't know that
Yeah.
we saw it.
We'll get to the world
Okay.
building, but I want to do this in a kind of orderly fashion at the beginning, okay? Give everybody at least, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of back and forth in us, laughing and yelling and getting mad and criticizing and also, whatever.
are we?
And index cards.
Right. But I want to, the first thing I want to do is I want to go and give everybody, just take 2 minutes, no more, and give me your, I'm going to start with Mr. Johnson and Oz since they haven't seen it before. So this is more of a genuine, hot take. So give me your 2 minute.
And implying me and Opti are disingenuous. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, you guys have seen it. You've had a lot more time to formulate these thoughts. So,
He's not wrong, Kevin.
It didn't take long to formulate these thoughts.
Mr. Johnson, I'll start with you. Give me your 2 minute, initial reaction of Bright.
Okay. I guess I'll just start with rating about 3 out of 5. I would say. It did not exceed my expectations. It pretty much equaled them. That said, my expectations were informed by various people's non-spoilery responses to having seen the film while I waited till today to see it. But yeah, overall, I mean, it was decent cotton candy. It had, a number of different things in there that annoyed me with the dialogue, and I think we pretty much mentioned those as they went along. The fairies' life matter comment and just dumb stuff like that. I don't know. It seems like Milo Yiannopoulos wrote some of the jokes. That wasn't too bad, actually, that bad. But there were a couple that seemed like they hired him on for. But overall, though, I mean, the magic. I mean, they didn't take time to explain a lot in some cases, but then when it came to the obvious interpersonal stuff that you were picking up from the subtext, then they had to beat you over the head with it. That said, the action was kind of cool. Yeah, overall, lots and lots of holes and rough spots, and it could have been better, but it wasn't bad.
But 3 out of 5, you give it, right?
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, on the positive side of meh.
Let me ask you last question before I move on to Oz. Would you recommend this movie to a friend?
I guess it depends on the friend. If they were already kind of into fantasy
I think
or
that means your
sci-fi
answer is
stuff,
no.
I might. But if they were my dad, no, it wouldn't be worth his time.
Right. Okay, Oz.
If you're not already interested in the fantasy, urban fantasy, sci-fi kind of stuff, I don't know. I don't see it grabbing people.
Oz, what is your reaction, and how do you feel about the fact that they called it a magic wand over and over again?
I don't care about that. As a matter of fact, it was just sort of, I was bored the whole. I guess it was just, if I had to give it a rating, I would give it a 2 out of 5, and the 2 is really only because I enjoyed the fantasy urban mix.
Sure.
So it's on genre alone. I found the writing to be weak. Again, this is the guy who directed Suicide Squad, and I was like, it's the same shit where it's there's no emotional weight, and you have all of these really cool ideas and things, and all of it just completely flat. There's lots of little things here and there. There's touches, right? It's like this director or the team or whatever, they just focus on the details more, and then everything else, the stuff that they put up front is just meh. It's trivial. So I don't know. And then, like I said, even the action scenes, I found them kind of blah.
The
I
action
wasn't really
scenes
impressed.
were okay. I was feeling the action scenes until they started flinging people across the room.
Yeah. When it was like, I was like, okay.
Opti's comment. I think it was Opti who said that elves have hollow bones. That was just perfect at that moment. I thought I would give it a maybe 2.5. I'm kind of between you guys. 2.5 out of 5, right in the middle. Like, it's really easy for me to just sit down and just like bowl of popcorn and just take it for what it is. And I had zero expectations for this. I'd seen the previews and they didn't impress me at all. I will say that I probably, even being part of the Shadowrun community and doing the things that we do, I probably wouldn't have watched this if we weren't doing this. like I was not turned on by the previews. None of that. So going into it, I was like, I didn't have any expectations that it would be any good. Having said that, Joel Edgerton's acting was actually really, really great. I thought
I will give him that. Yeah.
I thought he was actually. I really do think he was a relatable character. I believed him most of the time. That last scene notwithstanding, I think Kevin, your point about that whole last sequence really would have worked better as the first scene in the next movie. Like, they really should have they pulled him out of the fire, all that stuff. He got blooded, and then that should have been the end of the movie.
Without the awkward conversation.
Right.
You don't recap a movie right after you watched it. That's for us to do.
Well, also,
us.
not just that, but that last scene when he was being blooded, it had it had some emotional weight, and you just killed it. You just destroyed it with that last scene with all of its levity and everything. And that kind of levity, I think, belongs at the beginning of a movie like this. So I thought that was a right on point comment to make.
They even have that line, "Oh, I need an aspirin." Well, that's an ending line. "Yo, we ain't friends anymore." That's a finishing line. "Hey, fuck magic." Okay, that's a finishing line. Oh my God, they're all crap finishing lines, and you're still going.
Right.
I will certainly agree with Bobby that I think Jacoby was the real bright spot of this movie.
I see what you did there.
Yes.
Did you catch?
I think we can only get away with one of those, but.
My final point. We'll dig in a lot more when we get some discussion going on here. But I do think. Did any of you catch what the Orcish word for wand is?
Pishka.
Puchka. I love it.
So, what is Orcish? Hungarian or?
I don't know. Yeah.
What was the Elvish accent? I had a hard time pinning it down.
It was
No idea.
It sounded like something that already exists and not something they made up.
Opti, what is what's your reaction here right at the end? 2 minutes.
Just like overall, I can't bring myself to hate it, although I really like it. I'm gonna say that I like the movie. I hate certain parts of the movie. It's like having a best friend that just there's certain things about them that just bother you to death, and you keep wanting to walk away from them, but like they're friends, so you can't. That's how I feel about this movie. Like, I really liked it. I love Jacoby. I hated some things about this movie. We could talk about them later, but
sure.
That's so 3 stars with an asterisk.
And Kevin.
The things that they put their effort into are things that aren't hard to do and that don't impress us anymore. And I think that's the real weak point here. I can give this maybe a 2 out of 3, leaning towards 1, but it's not because this isn't because it failed to be Shadowrun. It's not because it failed to be anything. It's because in the end of the day, a movie, no matter what its setting, no matter what its conceit, whatever, can be good based on good writing. It has everything to do with, did this make sense? Did that make sense? I can suspend my disbelief of a wand that randomly vaporizes dudes.
Right.
I cannot suspend my disbelief about her choosing to speak English for relatively arbitrary reasons, considering what she had to say. Too much of it just didn't make sense, and the dialogue was so ham-handed and poorly written and just juvenile that, I mean, and you can say, oh, but the special effects were good. Yeah, but special effects, it's not hard for special effects to be good now. It's not hard for a fight scene to be impressive now. We don't look at a fight scene and go, that movie had fight scenes, ergo it was good. We look at fight scenes and we go, holy shit, that was special.
Yeah.
That was all one take.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it takes, you got to do something more special to really win points with that. And if it feels like they were leaning on the conceit of, oh, look, nobody makes contemporary fantasy movies, I guess we can just phone in the rest. That's not an excuse.
If this was 1985,
sure,
this would have been my favorite movie.
but we have come way too far
Yeah.
to just say, you know, I mean, if you go back and watch Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings now, back then that was some revolutionary animation and stuff. You look
Sure,
at it today
sure.
and you just go, oh, good. What the hell is happening here? So special effects can't save the day. The writing, ultimately, my final verdict, the writing was weak.
Oh,
and
well, yeah.
And that is unforgivable.
Well, let's talk about that in particular. I think a good